Hey YouTube, this is Full Stuff Incorporated, and here is my top 5 list of cards that could have been made better. These cards aren't necessarily bad in every regard, it's just that they could have been better in those areas. I mean, it's just more or less just cards that could have been improved to be remotely viable. The cards themselves may not be bad in every area, I just feel like that they're not quite on the level of viability. And if they had that viability, heck, they might have been played at some point. It just feels like that these cards just bug me a lot from how much potential they could have had. Granted, this list could have been a top 10, but I made it a top 5 because these 5 stick out to me as cards that could have been made better. So yeah, let's get on to the list of the top 5 cards that could have been made better. Now moving on to number 5 is Photon Stream of Destruction. Honorable mention being Mystical Ref Panel at least. Sorry about that, I just wanted to mention that. Anyway, Photon Stream of Destruction is a card that can banish a card on the field if you control a Galaxy Eyes monster. Really good, right? Well, you can only use it on your turn unless Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon is on your side of the field. It doesn't have the stipulation of where Galaxy Eyes cannot attack, which is really nice, but the fact that it's not as hard-hitting as cards like Burst Stream of Destruction, Inferno Fire Blast, Dark Magic Attack, which is the freest of them all. Photon Stream of Destruction feels like it could have been better. I mean, it's not bad in any regard. I just feel like it could have been better if you could just use it on any time that you have a Galaxy Eyes monster, like Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon, which is a direct upgrade of Galaxy Eyes. But I digress. This card's pretty good. In fact, it's really good. I just feel like I haven't teched it in yet, just because it's not that great. It's good. In fact, it's really good in situations, but I feel like that some decks right now would just not die from this, really, especially Cosmos. Now moving on to number 4 is Galaxy Stealth Dragon. Okay, you can read its effect. You can spell summon a Dragon-type monster from your hand by detaching one, and all your Galaxy cards, except itself, become Magic Specters, pretty much. You know, can't be destroyed or targeted by card effects. So, the effect's pretty good, right? It's only just ruined by the requirements. 2 level 4 Dragon-type monsters. So, tell me one consistent way that this deck can get this thing out. Galaxies themselves can get this thing out. If you're talking about dragons, they have Wrath Darkness Metal Dragon. They can summon dragons from the hand or graveyard. And it's much easier to summon than this thing. In Galaxies, they have no consistent way of getting this thing out. 2 Galaxy Dragons? Pfft, no. Running Rescue Rabbit? Are you kidding me? This card just had so much potential. If it was just generic, it would have been so much better. Even Queen Dragoon Jin is generic. And this thing has a Magic Spectre effect that only works with Galaxies. And Galaxies have no way of getting this thing out. And the only dragon that they could summon, as far as, well, there's 2 of them, Galaxy Eyes Cloud Dragon and Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. So, this card was so much wasted potential. Just that requirement. The requirement of dragons just ruins this card. And it just hurts seeing this thing not being just that good, just because it just got ruined by one mere requirement. 2 level 4 dragon monsters. It's just an outclassed Wrath Darkness Metal Dragon, and it hurts. Now moving on to number 3 is Mermail Abyss Balin. This hurts. It hurts so much seeing this thing on here. It's just the one Mermail that nobody will ever play. Just because it requires 4 other Mermail monsters to send. Not even just water monsters. It has to be Mermails. You can't send Atlanteans for this thing. You just spell summon this thing from the hand. From the hand! And when you do, you can target cards up to the number of Mermails in your grave. It gains 500 for... just gains 500, and if you do, destroy them. It becomes a 3000 beater. But you know what? Mermail Abyss Megalo becomes a 3200 body by itself with Mizuchi. So this card is very underwhelming in that regard. And if you tribute one other attack position Mermail, it just that if it destroys the monster in defense, if it attacks the monster in defense mode, it destroys it. Big deal! It's a 3000 attacker afterwards. where Mermail Abyss Megalo can swing over more and can also negate a spell with Mizuchi. So this card is very just useless. It's just useless. This card is just miserable. Just Mermail Abyss Megalo, Mermail Abyss Lead. Those cards are infinitely better than this thing. Because they're more generic, they have more uses, and they can become more powerful monsters by themselves. So Mermail Abyss Balin just had so much missed potential. Just require 4 Mermails to become a 3000 beater and potentially wipe a board. Fantastic. You're getting rid of an entire hand to summon this thing. Just why? It doesn't get any of its other effects aside from the defense destruction thing if you summon it any other way. So this card is just all around awful compared to the other Mermails. It just hurts seeing this thing. Hurts seeing how much potential it could have had. So yeah, it makes number 3. But all that would have been enough to make it number 1. Only that it gets worse. Number 2 is Mirage Knight. Oh boy, this thing really grinds my gears when I see its last effect that it banishes itself after it battles. But to battling honest, do you want to know what it requires to summon this thing? The effect of Dark Flare Knight. What does Dark Flare Knight require? You need to fuse a Flame Swordsman, which in itself is already a fusion monster, with a Dark Magician, which is a completely mismatched deck. You're going, let's see, 2 for the materials for Flame Swordsman and the polymerization, that's -3. Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman with the polymerization, that's 6. Then getting rid of Dark Flare Knight, which is a -7 to summon this thing. You have no other way to summon this thing unless you use a card like a wild monster appears or something. But, you know, when it battles a monster, it's an honest. But only sits around for that one turn. In the anime, it has a better effect, where you can just get your monsters back. But this card just doesn't give you your monsters back. It just takes it and leaves it. Just use honest, people. This card is horrendous. It just doesn't work. I mean, it doesn't have any form of self-protection outside of battle. It doesn't have that effect that says, unaffected by other card effects. Or at least get rid of the banishing part and just say it can't be targeted by other card effects. At least it can be kaiju'd or something. So, Mirage Knight is all around a card that could have been made so much better. It's just horrible. Who in their right mind would run Dark Flare Knight to summon this -7 that banishes itself? So, yeah, Mirage Knight is number 2. But you wonder how this thing is not number 1. Well, yeah, it just gets so much worse when you just look at number 1. Let's just go to it already. Well, number 1 is a 3-way tie. Loki, Lord of the Aesir, Thor, Lord of the Aesir, and Odin, Father of the Aesir. Are you surprised by my number 1 pick? Well, it's a 3-way tie now. I might as well go over each of them. For Loki, once per turn during your battle phase, during the battle phase, if your opponent activates a spell or trap, you can negate and destroy it. And then there's Thor, which negates monster effects on your opponent's side. And, you know, it's a pretty good effect, I do admit. And then there's Odin, which, you know, during your turn makes every single one of your Nordic gods, all of them immune to spells and traps. What's the problem with these cards? Is that their effects can only be used on your turn, and they're not even quick effects. It just doesn't make sense. Just why? These are gods, and you can't make yourselves immune on your opponent's turn. That doesn't make sense, and they're not even quick effects. Not even quick effects. You can do more than just kaijus to this thing. Swing over these things and just don't even give it a second look. But for each of their effects, you know, if they're destroyed and they're sent to the graveyard, you can banish one each of their Nordic respective mini-me's to bring them back, and each of them get their effects. Loki gets a trap back, so all around Loki's the worst one. Thor, it deals 800, which isn't bad, I guess. And then there's Odin, which is to draw a card. Odin is the best of them. And none of their effects are quick effects. They're massive beaters. They all require at least 3 monsters, including their own Nordic tuner. And that is a lot. asking a lot for monsters that can't protect themselves at will, really. I mean, the cards are just so situational at times. It just hurts seeing that they're so situational. Just because they're gods. They're meant to be the all-powerful beings of the universe that could just get swung over by Utopia the Lightning, kaijus, anything can swing over them, and cards that can banish them. It just doesn't make sense. They're so powerful by attack points. They're only beaters. So that if you get over them somehow, by not destroying them, by not having them sent to the grave, which is very easy to do with cards like Ignister out there, cards like the kaijus, so that the Nordic archetype themselves can use improvement. They need better searchers. They need better cards. It's just that none of the cards offer that. The only way you can get these things by generic means is by Vanadis, but even then the cards aren't that good, and the deck are just, oh my gosh, it just hurts seeing these things at number 1. They could have been so much better. They could have had much better support, and they surely could use it. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys like it, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And remember, if you don't got fluff, you ain't good enough. Talk to you guys next time. Please give me that Nordic support.